Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Well, what can I say? I guess the verdict really did it, huh? They expected different results, but we're getting exactly what was predicted, what was expected. Donald Trump continues to surge in the polls, and it seems like now it's hitting a brand new level. As more and more states seem to be signaling a possible red flip here, Donald Trump is now truly on the verge of doing something spectacular, something truly historic, possibly coming back to reclaim his second term that was so unfortunately ripped away from him. Of course, that story is nothing new, but what is new are these possible avenues or paths towards victory. The common perception was that Donald Trump had 3 states, either Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin. Those are the only 3 options. Those are the only places worth spending money where you could actually get a positive outcome. But as per usual, you could never really predict the future, and it seems as though we're headed towards uncharted territory here. The conventional wisdom of the past no longer applies. The whole freaking map seems up for grabs, people. According to the latest Trump campaign McLaughlin Associates internal poll, Donald Trump might be leading in Minnesota of all places. This is a huge shift, a huge revelation. Let me show you guys exactly what's going on. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so this is certainly an exciting one. We've got this post right over here from the Trump War Room. New poll shows President Trump beats crooked Joe Biden in Minnesota. According to McLaughlin and Associates, Donald Trump now leads in the state. A recent Minnesota poll of 600 likely voters, conducted on behalf of Trump 47 and the RNC, highlight 3 ballot scenarios where Donald Trump is leading Joe Biden, who is underperforming and very vulnerable. In a 6-way ballot with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Donald Trump leads by 4 points, at 41% to 37%. In a 4-way race without RFK Jr., Donald Trump is then up by 5 points on Joe Biden. And even on a head-to-head ballot, Donald Trump maintains a 2-point advantage against Joe Biden, at 47% to 45%. Donald Trump has a big opportunity to flip Minnesota and collect 10 electoral votes. That's the conclusion. And now, of course, here comes all the leftist detractors. Everyone's saying, well, it's a Trump internal poll. It's an RNC/Trump campaign poll, therefore you can't take it seriously. But I'd argue quite to the contrary. I'd be telling the average leftist, heed your 2016 warning. Back when Hillary Clinton was supposed to win by 6+ points nationally and completely mop the floor with Trump, when all the popular data was suggesting that, Trump's internals were right. The internal polls that they were conducting in some of the most important states, those polls were giving them different numbers than what the media was reporting. Never underestimate a Trump internal. And if this one's correct, I mean, holy moly, what a shift. Let's go back in time to the 2020 election in Minnesota. Joe Biden won the state by 7 points. In the span of 1 term as president in less than 4 years, we might be seeing a very considerable shift. And honestly, that seems to be a trend here in this election. Usually, especially with an incumbent running for re-election, you don't see too much volatility. Usually you'll see a president who will build a floor, states that he can rely on to get re-elected. Well, with Joe Biden, he built that floor, certainly, but it wasn't built so well, or I guess you could say that he's been taking a chainsaw at it over the last 3 years. The structure's falling apart, and the whole level's about to collapse. A state that was +7 for Democrats is now potentially at -2. We are seeing considerable shifts. And speaking of considerable shifts, let's continue to highlight what's going on in Virginia. Another very interesting development of this election cycle. If we once again hop into the time machine and go back to 2020, well, here's a state that Joe Biden won by over 10 points, at 54% to 44%. And now again, in less than 4 years, this is what's happened. This is the current outlook. And I really want to highlight this because we've now had 2 polls released post-verdict. The question, of course, always, what's been done? What's the effect here? Well, again, probably contrary to what Democrats were hoping to see. Donald Trump, for the first time this entire election, leapfrogs Joe Biden, taking the lead by 0.2 points in the 2024 Decision Desk HQ polling average, which now changes everything. At first, a poll came out showing Donald Trump, I think, down 2 within striking distance, and everybody said it was an outlier. It was one poll. You simply can't read into it. It's off trend. Well, no longer is it off trend. The trend is now clear. Donald Trump and Joe Biden are tied in Virginia, according to the early preliminary data that we have, and it's now possible that Minnesota's a 50-50 here, possibly a toss-up rating. And speaking of this trend and all the state ratings, obviously we're seeing a direction here, right? We've got Crystal Ball's Electoral College rating changes. We've got the latest updates here, the latest reports, with Alaska, Georgia, Iowa, Maine 2nd District, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, with every single state trending more likely Republican, and Pennsylvania's rating going from lean Democrat to now toss-up. The race is getting further and further out of Joe Biden's Biden's handlers' hands. Or I guess since we're just mentioning the Cook Political Report, might as well just put it in their words.
You know, look, we've seen in the past, Mika, that candidates who are seen as maybe not as strong on the economy ultimately win an election, like, say, Barack Obama in 2012. But to be losing by this margin, that is unsustainable at this point for an incumbent.
At this point, the race is becoming unsustainable for Joe Biden. And let's keep talking about that. Let's keep adding insult to injury, at least if you're a leftoid watching this broadcast for some reason, expecting good news. Let's keep looking at post-verdict results. We got a poll from NPR Marist in early June, with roughly 1,200 registered voters surveyed in the state of Pennsylvania. Trump gains based on his previous result. He's now hypothetically up +2 in the state. This result is likely why the Cook Political Report now got updated, listing Pennsylvania as a possible toss-up. Not exactly damaging numbers to Trump. We've also got a YouGov/Economist poll showing Trump up by 2 nationally. And last but certainly not least, we've got some new numbers out of the state of Arizona, where Donald Trump is supposedly up by +7. In a swing state that Joe Biden won 4 years ago, former President Donald Trump leads by 7 points in Arizona, while the most likely Senate matchup is neck and neck. We all know Kari Lake has been struggling in early data in her Arizona bid for the Senate. Well, it seems like this Trump bump is so significant that President 45 might end up pulling Kari Lake with him. She's supposedly only down by 1, according to this latest poll. In the contest to fill the U.S. Senate seat of retiring Senator Kyrsten Sinema, likely GOP nominee Kari Lake trails Democrat Representative Ruben Gallego by a slender margin. In a head-to-head matchup, Gallego would get 44% of the vote and Lake would get 41. But when adding in the Green Party candidate Arturo Hernandez to the ballot, he makes the Arizona race even closer, with Gallego at 40% and Kari Lake at 39%. The race is possibly within 1 point. The evidence is clear at this point. The trend is that Donald Trump is trending upwards. And at this point, I mean, who knows what's going to happen? I don't freaking know, and you can't even trust the polling data these days. Either the polls are wrong and Trump's going to lose, or the polls are right, and Trump has a chance of winning Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, and Virginia.
Look, these Sun Belt battleground states, frankly, for the Joe Biden campaign, these numbers are an absolute disaster. The smallest lead is in Arizona for Donald Trump. He's up 6. Look at this, 9 in Georgia, 13 in Nevada. My goodness gracious, my God. That is a huge lead. No Democrat has lost that state since John Kerry lost it back in 2004. How about these Great Lake battleground states? This is something that the Joe Biden campaign can work with. Look, Pennsylvania, Donald Trump up 3, but that's well within the margin of error. Wisconsin, Donald Trump up 1, well within the margin of error. And actually, a Joe Biden lead well within the margin of error, up a point here. This they can work with the Joe Biden campaign. This, the Donald Trump campaign, absolutely loves, and it looks like a lot of the other polling on the Sun Belt battlegrounds.
When you're looking
It sounds crazy, but everything's pretty much at play. The only one that I added in there to be a little bit hyperbolic was New York, but even New York's kind of in play in a way. The whole map is up for grabs. I guess let's just see what happens. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.